While we covered a ton in our last two Battlefield 2042 videos, there were still some lingering community questions around specialists, AI, and the game's maps. DICE did a follow-up stream and an Xbox extended presentation that actually answered a lot. I'm gonna be honest, I've been pretty busy with E3, but I'm excited to talk about this stuff now, so let's dive in. We are heading quickly towards more Battlefield 2042 announcements in July, as well as alphas and betas, so join us by giving us the old thumbs up and subscribing to the channel. Let's get to it. Specialists are where I think most confusion came up in the comments. We know there will be 10 at launch plus another 4 confirmed to release across 4 seasons. A lot of people wanted clarification if they're a replacement for the old class system, and the answer we now know is they are not. Battlefield 2042 will still have Assault, Recon, Engineer, and Support. Under those classes, you will then get to specialize by picking fully voiced characters that come with a unique gadget and trait. It isn't as different from previous Battlefield games as it first appeared, in my opinion. Many of the specialists' unique traits and gadgets look like things you would have just selected before, such as Casper, the Recon Specialist, has a drone gadget and a motion sensor. The Recon drone is basically the MAV from previous games, and it can even fire EMP darts, which it always could. A lot of people didn't know that. His motion sensor trait is a moving version of the previous ground sensors, or the throwable ball from Bad Company. The shield we saw deployed is another iteration of one already in Battlefield 4. Now the shield could be specialist specific or an open gadget, and we'll get to that in a bit. We've only seen a few specialists so far, and there could be some really cool ones coming down the line, so we're all about it. Now, one of the motivations DICE mentioned for the creation of specialists was interesting, and I both get it and I also think there's some things to consider here. The short version is the data pointed to players largely choosing classes in Battlefield games based on the primary weapon and not the gadget. So developers decided to unchain guns from classes. That means players can choose a specialist gadget based on their playstyle or team needs and also pick any gun. Let's speculate a little bit on just why people ignore classes in favor of guns, and what I think wasn't said here, although it could have been considered, we just don't know. People usually pick guns because of two main reasons. The first is pretty simple. There's usually a meta and they don't want to die a lot. If one class has the best gun, well, it's a no-brainer. If a map is a vehicle map, of course they're going to take the class with a launcher so they aren't helpless. The next more important thing to talk about is the influence of an unlock tree on player behavior. Many shooters, not just Battlefield, tie unlocks and experience far too closely to just kills. That gives players way less of an incentive to play objectives or do anything except jump on the smallest map possible where they can make the most kills, get the most experience, and unlock the most attachments. Once they have a gun fully unlocked, it becomes tedious to start over with another gun because you're at a disadvantage not having your weapon maxed out. So players often just think about guns. A more freeform unlock tree, like what was in Battlefield Hardline for example, and awarding more points for playing objectives than just kills, could make the old class system viable again, instead of needing these specialists. The concern is that the current system might end up with some seriously overpowered classes. People mentioned in the comments, for example, that Casper can see people sneaking up on him on the minimap all the time, so that plus an LMG or a top of meta AR might make them too overpowered. Versus the same recon type in past games, who would have had the situational awareness but was limited in what weapons they could carry. To be fair, that system has been loosening for years, allowing any class to pick mid-tier carbines or PDWs. We love sandboxes, so we're just gonna have to see what happens. I'd honestly rather have the freedom and let things break on occasion than have things more controlled. Circling back on reward systems, there's a chance here for Battlefield 2042 to follow in the footsteps of Hardline, a game I still think didn't get enough credit for what it did right. It allowed players to pretty much go play whatever they wanted and then go unlock just about anything. It's the ideal system. The good news is that in the stream, they clearly said you can unlock all characters and vehicles at the same time. That really feels like either we're getting a system similar to Hardline, or it may have been referring to how modern battle passes unlock all kinds of things as you go. Either way, it sounds good. Battlefield in particular, though, needs to award the most XP for playing objectives and the least for just volume of kills. There's a danger that if it doesn't do this, players are just going to go to breakthrough mode and ignore the massive conquest mode that makes Battlefield so special. Then there are also challenges, which far too often in old Battlefield titles encouraged bad behaviors. All challenges should teach players how to play a specialist or a class properly, just like the Gen 10 system did from Titanfall. Again, we'll have to wait to see what systems are in the game. So this is a good spot to talk about the freedom of weapons and gear. Some of the motivation behind the plus system of the game that lets you swap attachments on the fly was to avoid a legit classic Battlefield problem, and devs are right on here. If you took the wrong loadout into a match before, your only option was really just to redeploy and lose a ticket in conquest mode. The plus system makes you more adaptable to situations, but in this stream they also talked about its limits, which is good. For example, you can't make an SMG suddenly behave like a sniper rifle. It sounds like DICE put consideration into what attachments go with what guns. It also sounds like open gear, meaning gear that any specialist can use, is pretty extensive. Falk, who's a medic under support class, can still take anti-vehicle weapons and gadgets. We also got another burning question answered here. A lot of people wondered if the wingsuit was tied specifically to Sundance or was an open gadget, and the answer is that it is tied to specialists. That seems like a hell of a lot of fun. But also, duck hunt, anyone? Another area that we got a lot of questions over in the comments was about AI matches. In earlier presentations, it seemed like AI bots were their own thing, but bots are actually very pervasive in the game. 128 player matches will start with bots, who then filter out as players join in. There's going to be every combination imaginable: full AI matches, you and a squad versus AI, and mixed AI and player PvP. Regions where people can't get full matches will also be stacked with bots. Vehicles are getting their own sub-engine in Frostbite, and boy is it time. Ground vehicles always felt awkward to me in Battlefield games, and the Frostbite engine struggled particularly with fast-moving ones. Battlefield Hardline's cars honestly felt like this giant hand was always pushing down on them like a child playing with a toy car. Better car physics will make for more fun driving and a higher skill ceiling for players. We also learned a lot more about the seats in cars, giving passengers more to do. This will include things like spotter seats, 360-degree turrets, anti-air abilities, grenade launchers, and even a place to deploy mines on the go. Maps and pacing. Oddly enough, I think this was my favorite part of the presentation. Some maps like Hourglass are designed for both fast and slow moments in the new Conquest mode. You'll be frantically capturing a sector 1 minute and then grouping up and rolling out in convoys the next for large vehicle battles on your way to the next sector. This is very much like how PlanetSide 2 works, and damn if my old Battlefield friend Ryan and I haven't said we need more PlanetSide 2 in Battlefield for years. Non-stop action in games can honestly get tiresome and kind of boring. You need these prep phase moments between battles to absorb what happened and enjoy what's coming next. Dev says specifically that they looked at Goldmode Railway and Sinai Desert maps for inspiration if you want a reference point. We also got some insight into terms. The call-in tablet is what you use to airdrop vehicles at your location. We still don't know if that's based on a point system though, or happens when you capture a sector. The game is going to launch with 7 maps, which in past Battlefield games I don't think was enough and quickly got bored with. Consider you might play 1 or 2 of these to death in betas, so really you're getting 5 or 6 new ones. But it feels different this time because the maps are huge, and they're purpose-built for just 2 modes at launch. That's awesome, and exactly the right approach to Battlefield map design. We now know these maps will also have a lot of variation between Levolution and Tornadoes, which take random paths, or sometimes won't even show up. It's all about variety, and it feels like we're going to get it this time. There's also a lot of small details on map locations, but it's probably not worth getting into until we can actually show you, so let's circle back on that in another video. Modes. 2042 will start with 2 modes, but the more I think about it, they aren't super different from past Battlefield games, just more honed, and that's probably a good thing. Conquest is basically just Conquestception. The objectives you capture to take a sector can be thought of as just mini Conquest within Conquest. What seems to be different here are the vast spaces between sectors. So capturing one means the enemy team gets pushed really far away and you get time to regroup. Breakthrough, the second launch mode, is just having players fight in a single sector. So really just cramming more players into places they would already be in Conquest. What's to be seen here is if sectors properly divide up 128 players as advertised. If we get too many players in one location, then you'll wind up just spawning and dying instantly, which can become kinda tedious. To be fair, some of you love 64-player Op Metro, and this might be your jam. So not everything got answered in these presentations, and we still have some lingering questions. Going through these in no particular order. How does vehicle play work when everybody has a launcher, and how will vehicles hope to survive with that much ordnance being shot at them? When launchers were tied to just the engineer class, at least there was a limit to how many might be out there. Will the new Conquest work if it's basically just Conquest points within Conquest points? I know it's designed to spread players out, but what happens if players don't ever fully capture sectors? What happens if an entire team just decides to roll as a unit? Does this mean even more people need to stick around to defend objectives when players typically don't like to do that? Something that will probably be at EA Play, but how is Hazard Zone not a battle royale? In this stream, it was described as a high-stakes squad-based mode that builds tension as you play, which sounds super battle royale? We do know now that you can bring specialist loadouts and gadgets with you, so maybe less scavenging is involved. But the Hazard Zone title definitely sounds like areas of the map getting cut off. I mean, Call of Duty Black Ops Cold War tried Dirty Bomb, and it's not great. So we're curious to see what DICE's take's gonna be. It was also dropped here that DICE LA is working on something special being shown at EA Play. So if it's not Hazard Zone, which it might be, then what is it? Finally, and this is a good one, but where are the secrets, man? At the end of the live stream, it was mentioned that there would be secrets in this game. We know the storytelling is through seasons and in-game specialists, so are we hunting for mysteries in a match? Are we getting Megalodon level events? Will there finally be a T-Rex? I've been to a lot of press conferences over the years and have to say that the level of honesty and genuine level of Battlefield stood out to me in this stream. Right now it feels like Battlefield's in good hands. We have so much more Battlefield 2042 coming up, so head on over to GameSpot's YouTube page and subscribe to the channel. We're in this together. Thanks for watching.